Yes, I salute you all. Thanks for watching and thanks for being on. So basically today we are under company law, basically. And today we are going to look at the corporate personality of the company. Here, what do they mean that corporate personality? Here we are looking that a company is recognized as a legal entity distinct from its members. Get a company itself can be sued and can sue under its name. It makes it a legal entity distinct from its members. A company becomes an umbrella, you get, to the members. Members are inside, the company is the what? Is the umbrella. That is corporate personality. You get, it can be sued and it can sue in its own names. You get, basically that is a corporate what? Personality. And basically it can also mean a veil of incorporation. A veil of incorporation. You get. And basically here what you have to know that this principle was established in the landmark case of Salmon versus Salmon and the Company of 1897. Basically, under this case, the facts of this case were that Salmon had incorporated his boot and shoe repair business, transferring it to what? To a company. He took all the shares of the company except 6, which were held by his wife, daughter, and 4 sons. You get, part of the payment for the transfer of the business was made in form of debentures. Debentures is like a secured loan issued by the company to Salmon. Then after all, Salmon transferred the debentures to Broadrib in exchange for what? A loan. Salmon defaulted on payment of the interest of the what? On the loan, and Broadrib sought to enforce the security against the what? The company. Basically here the essence was that the unsecured creditors tried to put the company into what? Liquidation. A dispute issued as to whether Broadrib or the unsecured creditors had priority in relation to the payment of the what? Of the debts. It was argued in the first instance, it was argued for the unsecured creditors that Salmon's security was void, as the company was not incorporated and was in reality the agent of what? Of Salmon. This was upheld on trial and the Court of Appeal. You get. Now the House of Lords, for it had this on the say. It held that this was not the case and the company had been properly what? Incorporated, and that therefore the security was valid and could be what? Enforced. So basically that was what was held in the House of the Lords after the decisions on the trial and the Court of what? Of Appeal. So this landmark case is the one that stamps on the veil of corporation or corporate personality, that the company is a corporate personality. It can be sued and it can sue once it is properly incorporated or properly registered. So note that in mind. And another thing, what you have to bear in mind is that we have the consequences of incorporation, the consequences or the outcomes, or the outcomes. Those are the consequences of incorporation. One of them is liability. Once a company is incorporated, it becomes liable. You understand? We have the case of Centum versus UCB, whereby it was held that individual members of the company are not liable for the company's what? Debts. However, the company is the one that is liable for the debts of the members. You get. So here the company is what? Liable. Secondly, it is property. What do I mean by property? When we relate to the case of Makaura versus Northern Assurance Company Limited and others, where here the House of the Lords held that no shareholder has a right to any items or property of the what? Or property of the company, even though he holds all shares in the company. This basically means that if it under company or under incorporation, once a company is incorporated, the property is owned by the company but not by individuals. So note that in mind. that is under property if the company is incorporated. Then you also have legal proceedings. What do I mean by legal proceedings? Here, once a member of a company makes a default in any circumstances, you cannot sue an individual, but rather you can sue the company. That's why in many cases you see that it is Uganda versus Mukwano Properties, it is Kaketo versus Steel and Tube, among others. It is Walter versus which other company? It may be like Walter versus Reham Property. You are not suing, you are suing the company because it is a corporate personality. But realize that it is just a member of company that defaulted you. You get. So under legal proceedings, there is a case of Wani versus Uganda Timber and Joiners Limited, whereby here it was on a warrant of arrest against the managing director. Instead of making a warrant of arrest against the company. So the court held that the managing director of the company is not the company and cannot be sued personally. But however, you can sue the company at large. You get. Then we have perpetual succession. What do we mean by perpetual succession? Here we mean that a company is a living entity. Even though everyone dies for it, it continues to carry out its activities. There is a case of Renewal Tedman Holdings Pty Limited of 1967, whereby Noel Tedman and his wife were the only shareholders and officers of the two companies. They were killed as a result of a road traffic accident. An infant child survived the deceased. Here, basically, the topic that they were bringing out is that their death did not cause the dissolution of the company. That's what they call perpetual succession of the company, basically. And also, there is also another consequence is transfer of shares. And a company, you can transfer shares, basically. You can transfer shares in any aspect that you want. Then also under a consequence, there's also a consequence of borrowing. The company can borrow. You get it. Still, we shall use the case of Centamo versus UCB Bank, whereby they held that that the individual members of the company are not liable for the company's debts. Understand? Under the aspect of borrowing. Also, we have capacity to contract. When you read section 50 of the Companies Act, capacity to contract, basically it means that the company has the capacity to make contracts with with other people. It can enter into a contract. You get. When you read the case of Lee versus Lee and Air Farming Company Limited of 1961, provides that rule that the deceased and the company were separate and distinct legal entities, and there was no reason to deny the existence of the contractual relationship, of the company. So basically, note that in mind, that under company has the capacity to do to enter into contracts. Note that in mind. So those are some of the consequences of corporate personality of incorporation of a company. So note that in mind, basically. But other than that, thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and like the videos. Thank you very much.